Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor in the Oval Office last week. Bernie, AOC, Mandani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're democratic socialists, and that's a very different thing, and I don't think people know that yet.
Bill Maher didn't just open his show, he detonated it. The moment rapper Mike Bigga took his seat, the energy in the room flipped like a switch. Maher, armed with razor-sharp wit, locked horns with Mike, whose unfiltered boldness doesn't wait for permission. It wasn't just a conversation. It was the spark before the explosion.
If anybody is skeptical, I would say get to know him. And once you get into a room with him, kick the tires yourself and make your own assessment instead of just kind of making assessments from what you may see on television. Something that I share, that I feel like I share with Zohran, is that the way sometimes people are painted in media doesn't always align with who we really are as individuals. And so I think that when people get to know him as a person, when people get to know us as real people.
And then it happened. What started as dialogue instantly morphed into a full-scale ideological collision. Beliefs clashed, politics collided, and cultural tension crackled like exposed live wires. This wasn't a debate. It was a televised confrontation at point-blank range. Buckle up, because what followed wasn't intense. It was volcanic.
I know the kids think that stuff that happened before their appearance on the planet didn't really happen, but it did. We've run this experiment many times, and the results are always obvious. Here's capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. Yeah. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, homes.
Here's where it all kicked off. A group of 6 Democratic veterans argued that U.S. soldiers should have the right to disobey orders under certain circumstances. Their statement dropped right after Trump suggested possible military action in Venezuela. Mike Bigga backed that idea hard, insisting troops deserve moral space to choose which commands to follow. Maher pushed back fiercely, warning that asking young and inexperienced soldiers to make battlefield ethics decisions on the fly is dangerous. That disagreement lit the fuse, setting the stage for an even fiercer clash coming up next.
This election is taking place when we have a corrupt campaign finance system which allows billionaires in both political parties to select the candidates they want and to buy elections.
The temperature spiked instantly when the topic shifted to Gaddafi. Few names divide a room faster. Some consider him a reformer who lifted Libya, while others remember him as a brutal dictator. And Obama? Same split. Hero to some, strategist to others. With 2 firebrand guests dissecting 2 firebrand leaders, the atmosphere flipped on its head. Every sentence was loaded. Every counterpunch landed harder than the last. And just like that, the clash escalated.
It turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. Low wages, high inflation, shortages, outages, 8 million people fleeing. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening.
Then came the point that hit like a jolt of electricity. Aren't we all exhausted by the constant narrative that the Western world is behind every global disaster? At some point, repeatedly blaming the West becomes a loop with no end. Yes, history matters. Yes, foreign interference has caused harm. But does that justify blaming Western nations for every failure today? When do countries start owning their leaders, their decisions, and the consequences that come with them.
Zoran can't make your wishes come true. You're thinking of Zoltar. Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world. For example, Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor in the Oval Office last week.
This is the problem with sweeping statements delivered with total confidence. Everything sounds solid until someone asks for specifics. When Maher pressed Mike Biga to explain how the French are supposedly still profiting from Haiti, things got shaky. The answer became vague. Talk of Haitians sending money to France, but no clarity. Taxes, trade, reparations, nothing concrete. The claim sounded huge until it needed evidence.
Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor in the Oval Office last week. Bernie, AOC, Mandani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're democratic socialists, and that's a very different thing, and I don't think people know that yet.
Then came one of the most recycled woke talking points: reparations. No one denies the brutal history or the pain inflicted on generations. But jumping from acknowledging injustice to demanding that people today pay for actions centuries old, that's where logic collapses. Learning history is important, but forcing individuals with zero connection to past crimes to bear the burden doesn't heal. It divides. It sounds noble on the surface, but the moment you peel back the layers, the fairness and reasoning crumble instantly.
Mandani seems like a nice guy, and I congratulate him on an extraordinary political achievement. But before the whole left side of the country catches socialism fever, let's listen to the other big winner in last Tuesday's election, Virginia Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, who, before the 24 election, said things like, if the party didn't shift to the center, we will get torn apart. And we need to never use the word socialist or socialism ever again. Well, she was right, but they didn't listen. Typical, am I right, ladies?
And this ties directly into the new social fault line: politics. People don't just disagree anymore, they avoid each other entirely. It's most common on the left, where ideological purity has become a moral requirement. Miss even one talking point, and you're out. Remember Maher's story about the woman who ended her engagement because her fiancé didn't have a fully formed opinion on Black Lives Matter? He wasn't against it. He just didn't have a prepared statement. That alone destroyed a lifetime commitment. Political identity has replaced personal identity. Compatibility isn't measured by character anymore. It's measured by ideological checklists. And that's why relationships, friendships, and even marriages are collapsing.
At least the party has a clear choice here, very clear. One wing is saying don't ever use the word socialist again, and one is saying,
I am a democratic socialist.
Clear, huh? So how do we decide who's right? Well, it turns out we don't really have to flip a coin. We have the evidence. In 2024, 13 Democrats won in districts Trump also won, all moderates. This isn't rocket science. All the left-leaning think tanks have done autopsies on 2024, and they all came up with the same message: move to the center. Even the New York Times.
Our media keeps pushing the same tired caricature: the clueless dad, the bumbling boyfriend, the husband who's basically a lovable idiot. Play it long enough, and it starts shaping reality. Men feel the pressure. Some pull back, afraid of being called controlling. Others drift through relationships without knowing what role they're supposed to play. Many simply retreat, convinced masculinity is something to apologize for. That's why there's a growing demand for balanced, healthy masculinity, not toxic dominance, but grounded strength, steady, supportive, responsible masculinity that complements women instead of competing with them.
So they're quiet quitting capitalism and texting socialism that they're down to. Thing is, socialism will f you, because socialism, to put it simply, just doesn't work and has never worked, like Kevin Federline.
Men matter more than many are willing to admit. So it was surprising to see Maher let Donna Brazil unload endless criticism about men carrying baggage. Of course, men have flaws, but reducing an entire gender to a stereotype ignores the quiet, daily contributions they make. From physical labor to security to repairs and maintenance, men handle countless tasks that keep families safe and homes running. These aren't glamorous jobs, but they matter, and it goes deeper. Being a man isn't about fame or bravado. It's about responsibility, showing up, working hard, supporting the people who rely on you. Most men don't live the luxury life of celebrities. They build real homes, real families, real futures. Men matter not because they're perfect, but because their consistency, strength, and dedication hold society together. Culture can mock them all it wants, but it can't erase the value of the work they do quietly every day. And with that, we wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.